Oda just revealed one of the biggest mysteries in One Piece, and this changes everything. After 5 years of waiting and speculating, we got to see the true nature of Imu-sama's power, and this could be the strongest devil fruit in all of One Piece. Imu's devil fruit is the dark counterpart of Luffy's Nika fruit, the Anti-Nika fruit whose power may be Luffy's single greatest weakness. In this video, I will tell you why this devil fruit could be the Luffy killer, so let's get into it. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our One Piece content and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now. It only takes you a second, but it helps me out a lot. And if you watch my videos but you haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Finally, this video will contain all the most recent One Piece manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Imu-sama is a mysterious being who was first introduced in chapter 906 of the manga, which happened about 5 years ago, and 20 years after the manga started. Imu-sama's introduction immediately shocked the entire One Piece fanbase, as it revealed that this being is the true ruler of the world government, the one who sits on the empty throne, and the one to whom even the Gorosei must bow down to. Nobody besides the very upper echelon of the world government is even aware of Imu-sama's existence, and yet, this being is the one who really decides what the world government does and doesn't do, and who or what will be erased from history. Interestingly enough, Imu-sama is the de facto king of the world, which is the very title that Rox D. Zebek had set out to attain some 4 decades ago. This and other aspects of Imu's character have led to insane amounts of speculation and theory crafting among the fanbase, but thankfully, after 180 chapters of wondering, we are finally getting answers. Up till now, little was known about Imu-sama's personality, other than the fact that he or she enjoys casual strolls through the garden and playing with butterflies. Oh, and destroying entire islands in a matter of seconds. We also know that this being has taken a special interest in 4 individuals: Luffy, Blackbeard, Shirahoshi, and Vivi. In fact, we did have a small hint that Imu is interested in Vivi even more so than the others, or at least in a different way from the other 3. That's because Vivi's photo is the only one that wasn't partially destroyed by Imu. The other 3 were either pierced with a saber or torn into pieces and left on the ground in the Garden of Flowers. But for whatever reason, Vivi's photo wasn't damaged, and Imu-sama takes the photo with him or her upon leaving the garden. Imu-sama used a saber, which is a specific type of sword, in order to pierce through a photo of Shirahoshi. This is interesting because a number of very important characters have been shown to use sabers in the story, including Shanks, Roger, and of course Zebek. As we know, Blackbeard even named his ship the Saber of Zebek, so this saber connection could be more than just a coincidence. Imu is introduced during the Reverie arc, but it is over 150 chapters later that we learned what really happened at the Reverie. We learned earlier that the king of Alabasta, Nefertari Cobra, wanted to have a special audience with the Gorosei, and this audience was granted to him on the 4th day of the Reverie. Cobra entered the chamber that houses the empty throne on his own, and there he met with the 5 elders. Cobra wanted to talk about the Void Century and the establishment of the world government 800 years ago. More specifically, he wanted to talk about his ancestor Nefertari Lily, the woman who was Queen of Alabasta at the time that the world government was formed. We've known for a while that the world government was founded by 20 allied kingdoms, and that the ruling families of these kingdoms moved to Marijua to become the Celestial Dragons, the gods of the New World. These royal families were then replaced by other royal families who went on to rule their respective nations. But we've always been led to believe that one of the families, the Nefertari family, refused to move to Marijua, and that is why they continue to rule over Alabasta to this day. In fact, the Celestial Dragons consider this decision to be a betrayal, but for whatever reason they decided to put up with it, and Alabasta remained firmly within the fold of the world government, while the Nefertari family continued to rule the country for centuries. But as Cobra figured out, there's a problem with this story. Even though the former Queen of Alabasta, Nefertari Lily, was supposed to have left Marijua and returned to Alabasta, she never actually made it back. In fact, she completely disappeared from history, and her place as ruler of Alabasta was taken by her younger brother. So yes, the Nefertari family did continue to rule the country, but not through Lily. Lily disappeared, as if she had been deliberately erased from history. You know, the very thing that Imu has a habit of doing to both people and places. When Cobra asks the 5 elders what happened to Lily, they simply say that they don't know. According to the records, Lily did not agree to become a celestial dragon, and she did not pledge her sword to the empty throne. That is why there are only 19 swords around the throne itself instead of 20. But the specifics have been lost to the cobwebs of history, and so the Gorosei simply assume that Lily went home. Cobra then follows up by asking what is the D. All 5 elders are shocked by this question, and they ask Cobra why he would ask such a thing. Cobra reveals that although Lily never came back to Alabasta, she did leave a brief 800-year-old letter behind. This letter has been passed on from ruler to ruler within the Nefertari family from the time of the Void Century, and it is because of the contents of this letter that Cobra is asking about the initial D. And as this conversation is happening between Cobra and the Gorosei inside the throne room, something truly shocking occurs. Imu-sama walks into the room, surprising everyone. The Gorosei warn Imu that Cobra is still there. And of course, no one is supposed to see Imu besides them, but Imu doesn't seem to care. Imu-sama speaks the word Lily, then walks up to the empty throne and sits on top of it. Cobra is stunned because he knows that no one is supposed to sit on that throne. No one is supposed to have the power to control the whole world. And yet Imu is right there, and this mysterious being addresses Cobra directly. Imu says the following: Mu shall address 2 of the points being discussed, and thou must answer a single question in return, Cobra. And just from this single sentence, we can already figure out a bunch of information. First of all, Imu talks in the 3rd person and uses the unique 1st person pronoun Mu. It is clear that Imu talks in an antiquated way, which indicates that this creature is extremely old. In fact, Cobra basically confirms this as he says that he's heard the name Imu before. One of the original 20 rulers of the world government was also called Imu, which implies that this Imu has been alive for 800 years. This seems to confirm the popular fan theory that Imu is immortal and has been around since the creation of the world government some 8 centuries ago. Most likely because he or she was granted immortality by a previous user of the Op-Op fruit. If true, this is of course absolutely huge, because it would mean that we have a living witness to everything that happened during the ancient war. And this puts us that much closer to finally learning the full truth about the Void Century. Imu refuses to confirm or deny Cobra's speculation about whether this is the same Imu who helped create the world government. Instead, Imu remains focused on the initial question that Cobra raised. Imu says D is the moniker of our ancient enemy. In recent times, it has cropped up more frequently. However, it is nothing but a faint echo. Those who carry the name do not even know of its true meaning. This seems to confirm the information that we've already gotten in the past. We know that the D clan are considered to be enemies of the gods, i.e. enemies of the celestial dragons, and we know that modern D clan members, like Luffy, don't seem to know what the D really means or represents. Nevertheless, even though Imu tries to downplay its importance, it is clear that the D is deeply troublesome for the world government. Imu says that all of this is Lily's fault. Without Lily's blunder, pirates would not be chasing the poneglyphs, and those vexing relics never would have been scattered all over the world. It seems that Lily Nefertari made some kind of mistake that allowed the release of the poneglyphs, and so instead of them being hidden under the strict control of the world government, they were released into the world where they could be read, and that information could then presumably be used against the world government. Imu calls this the worst possible outcome for the world government, so much so that Imu questions whether losing control of the poneglyphs was truly a mistake, or whether it was all part of some larger, deliberate, and premeditated plan. Imu seems to suspect Lily of having been a traitor to the world government, someone who pretended to be one of the 20 founding members, but was secretly scheming to bring the government down in the future by releasing the poneglyphs out into the world for others to find. The information on these poneglyphs clearly represents an existential threat to the world government. So, deliberately releasing them into the world is essentially an acknowledgement that your real plan is to bring the world government down. It seems that Lily tried to play this off as some sort of mistake or accident, but Imu isn't buying it. And in order to confirm the suspicions, Imu demands to know what was in Lily's letter. More specifically, how did Lily sign the letter? Was it simply as Queen Lily of the House Nefertari, or was there something else in her name? Cobra, who now realizes that he will never be able to leave this room alive no matter what he says, decides to just tell the truth. The letter written by Alabasta's ancient ruler was signed by Queen Nefertari D. Lily. As soon as Imu hears the word, or I guess the letter D, a large, sharp, arrow-shaped tail rushes towards Cobra and pierces through him. As we know, the Flame Emperor Sabo has been secretly listening in on this entire conversation from afar, and when he realizes that Cobra is being attacked, he jumps in to try to protect him. He grabs Cobra and launches a powerful fire blast at the throne where Imu is located. Imu instantly transforms into some sort of beast that simply opens its gigantic mouth and swallows Sabo's flames like they were nothing. And if that wasn't wild enough, in the very next moment, the Gorosei also transform into 5 monstrous creatures. We only see them in silhouette, because our boy Oda frickin' loves silhouettes, but it is clear that one of these creatures is some sort of giant bird, another one has bull-like horns, and in general they look like they're using some sort of zone devil fruits to take on beastly forms. Sabo tries to save Cobra by carrying him out of the throne room and escaping, but Cobra tells him that he'll only be dead weight. Sabo won't be able to get away if he has to carry Cobra on his shoulders, so Cobra tells Sabo to tell Vivi and Luffy that the Nefertari family are also members of the D clan. This request reminds Sabo of his childhood, and a time when he, Luffy, and Ace were discussing the fact that both Ace and Luffy have the initial D in their names. In fact, as kids, Luffy and Ace said that Sabo could also have a D in his name. He could become Sa-D-Bo. This little flashback might actually be more important than you realize, but more on that later. As that black arrow tail thing and the other monsters all attack Sabo and Cobra again, Cobra chooses to sacrifice himself so that Sabo can escape. Before he dies, Cobra tells Sabo what Lily's letter said. The poneglyphs must be protected. Fly the flag that heralds the world's eventual dawn. Sabo then escapes, and so does Walpole, who by the way has been spying through a hole in the wall this whole time. He apparently heard and saw everything, just like Sabo. Since Sabo found out about Imu and then escaped, Imu decided that he knows too much and that he must be erased from history. When a call that Sabo makes to the revolutionaries is traced to the kingdom of Lulusia, Imu uses an incredible weapon to destroy the entire island of Lulusia in a matter of seconds in order to ensure that Sabo can't reveal Imu's existence to the revolutionaries. This weapon, which looks like a giant floating sphere that shoots energy beams down at the ground, seems to have been built by Vegapunk himself, possibly inspired by the ancient weapons. Nevertheless, Sabo anticipated that this would happen, and so he wasn't actually in Lulusia. Sabo then managed to link up with the revolutionaries once again, and he brought the refugees from Lulusia along with him. And so, the stage is set for the ultimate showdown. The revolutionaries now know who really controls the world government, and that information is about to upend the entire world government system and change the world as we know it. Multiple kingdoms have already rebelled against the world government and joined the revolutionaries, and their plan is clear. During the reverie, they managed to destroy a huge amount of food reserves that the Celestial Dragons had stockpiled in Marijua. and the revolutionaries are now trying to blockade Marijois in order to ensure that more food and other resources cannot get there safely. The revolutionaries want to essentially besiege and starve out the celestial dragons. This is an excellent strategy if they can make it happen, because this strategy uses Marijois' greatest strength and turns it into its greatest weakness. Marijois' incredibly isolated location atop the Red Line makes it perhaps the most fortified place in the world, and so it is incredibly difficult to attack directly. Sure, you can sneak in some infiltrators during a big busy event like the Reverie, but an entire army trying to attack such a well-fortified position would be destroyed easily. And yet, this remote location makes it difficult to resupply the celestial dragons, especially if a revolutionary army can effectively blockade the access points. And that is exactly what the revolutionaries are planning to do as the final conflict in One Piece heats up. And all this talk about rebellion and revolution brings us back to the D-Clan, who are, for some reason, considered to be the ancient enemies of the celestial dragons. As Imu pointed out, even the people who have the D initials in their name today are unaware of the initials' true meaning. But clearly there is a meaning, and clearly this meaning is extremely important to Imu and the Gorosei. Literally the only thing that Imu wanted from Cobra was to confirm that Lily's signature in that letter included the initial D. As soon as this detail was confirmed, Cobra was attacked and soon after he was killed. So why is the D so important, and why did Imu need Cobra to confirm whether Lily had it in her name? There are of course tons of theories about the D-Clan, but a popular one has been the idea that the D-Clan is some sort of royal bloodline that was opposing the world government during the Ancient War. So maybe the modern carriers of this D initial are direct descendants of the royal dynasty that the Celestial Dragons overthrew and replaced during the Ancient War. This would make the D-Clan natural enemies of the Celestial Dragons because they have a claim to the throne. They can claim to be the rightful rulers of the world, and this could lead the people to support the D-Clan and rebel against the current system. One issue with this royal bloodline theory is that the D-Clan members don't seem to be related to each other. They seem to be dispersed all over the world, and while many of them are humans, some of them, like Saul, are giants. So are they really all related? I guess after 800 years, they could all be distantly related and they're just not aware of it, but there is another possibility. That brief Sabo flashback that I talked about earlier might be a big clue about the true nature of the D-Clan. What if the D is not directly related to bloodlines, but rather to allegiances? I mean, of course, in the present time, it is passed down from generation to generation, kind of like a last name. So we have Monkey D. Garp, Monkey D. Dragon, and Monkey D. Luffy. But perhaps originally, those who had the initial D in their name chose to take it willingly as a sign of their dedication to a cause. This cause being their determination to overthrow the world government and the Celestial Dragons and usher in a new dawn of the world, with the D referring directly to this dawn. So if you have the initial D, it is because you yourself chose to adopt it as a way of pledging allegiance to the dawn, which means that anyone can become a member of the D-Clan as long as they share this allegiance. In that sense, when Luffy and Ace told Sabo that he could become Sa-D-Bo, it was more than just a childish offer, although they didn't know it. This was actually a clue about the true nature of the D-Clan. This would explain why Imu was so interested in knowing how exactly Lily signed that letter. As one of the 20 founders, Imu likely knew Lily very well, and Lily was clearly trusted with some important tasks within the world government, which is why she seems to have had control of the poneglyphs. After all, Imu says that Lily's quote-unquote mistake is what allowed for the poneglyphs to be unleashed upon the world, although Imu suspects that it may not have been a mistake at all. This suspicion is finally confirmed after 800 years when Cobra reveals that Lily signed her name as Queen Nefertari D. Lily. But why would Imu need to get this information from Cobra? Imu likely knew Lily personally, Imu was there when everything went down, so why did it take 800 years for Imu's suspicions to finally be confirmed? If Lily's full name contained the D initial, wouldn't someone like Imu with all the resources in the world at his disposal be able to confirm this much earlier? Maybe the D is not really part of Lily's name, at least not in like a technical or legal sense. Because of that, the D in Lily's name is not information you can confirm by looking into the historical record. That's because Lily added the D to her name as a way of expressing her allegiance to Joy Boy and the forces fighting against the world government. She did it secretly, only in the most private letters such as the one Cobra saw, and Imu needed the confirmation from Cobra in order to know for sure. So while today the D clan families pass the D initial from generation to generation, the original way of obtaining that initial was not by being born into it. You become a D when you willingly decide to risk your life to fight against the world government, and to fight for the ideals represented by Joy Boy and the Ancient Kingdom. The D initial is itself kind of like a flag that you hoist within your name, a flag that symbolizes the new dawn of the world. Now, of course, I'm not the first person to propose this theory, it has been around for a while, but after the most recent big reveals about Imu and what happened at the Reverie, this theory is beginning to make a lot more sense. My guess is that the D clan, the dawn of the world, Joy Boy, and the lyrics of Being Sasake will all turn out to be closely related. For 800 years, those who have vowed to fight the world government have waited for the new dawn. They've been holding on through the long night, but now, finally, the morning sun will rise. But before that happens, Luffy and all those who are fighting for a new dawn will have to face off against Imu and the Gorosei. And the reveal of Imu's true power could tell us a lot about what is about to happen next. We now know the truth about Luffy's Gear 5, a reveal that absolutely shocked the fandom last year. Gear 5 is the awakened form of the devil fruit we once knew as the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but whose true name is the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. The Gomu Gomu no Mi was once believed to be a Paramecia type devil fruit that gives its user's body the property of rubber. But the Nika devil fruit turned out to be a mythical zone type human fruit. This devil fruit is named after the sun god Nika, a legendary mythical figure who is also known as the warrior of liberation, and who is believed to bring freedom and joy to everyone around him. For this reason, he is especially revered by those who are suffering and those who are oppressed. Gear 5, or the awakened form of Nika, makes the user's body even stronger, and it also drastically increases the user's speed and durability. On top of that, the user is now able to transform not only his own body, but also his very surroundings, which is similar to some of the Paramecia awakenings that we've seen before. But Gear 5 goes one step further, because it essentially turns the outlandish powers exhibited by characters in Rubber Hose animation into reality. Gear 5 straight up blurs the line between the realistic and the fantastical by allowing Luffy to become a Looney Tunes character. The awakened Nika allows its user the freedom to fight in any way that he pleases, and this devil fruit's power is able to unleash the power of imagination itself. It has been referred to as the most ridiculous power in the world. So ridiculous, in fact, that its user can instantly gigantify any part of his body, or even his entire body. He can make an opponent's attack bounce off the ground itself and back at the opponent. And he can grab hold of intangible objects like lightning and use them as a weapon. And that's still just a small fraction of Nika's utterly cartoonish and reality-defying powers. Knowing all of this about the Nika Devil Fruit, my first reaction to the big reveal of Imu's powers in chapter 1085 was that we may have just been introduced to the dark counterpart of Luffy's Nika Devil Fruit, the Anti-Nika Devil Fruit. I mean, think about it. Just like the Nika fruit, Imu's power gives its user the ability to instantly turn into a giant cartoonish creature. A creature that can perform such outlandish feats like manifesting a giant mouth and swallowing Sabo's overpowered flame attack without taking on any damage. Imu also appears to control a long black arrow that can be used to attack and pierce through his opponent from a distance. But this arrow may not be an arrow at all. It may be an arrow-shaped tail, like the ones that devils are often depicted as having in cartoons. And while both Luffy's and Imu's powers allow them to instantly transform into cartoonish creatures and perform fantastical feats that shouldn't even be possible in the real world, the two powers also appear to be the perfect counterparts of each other. Luffy's awakening turns his hair and much of his clothing white. He becomes a creature known as the Sun God, and he is said to bring freedom and joy to everyone around him. On the other hand, Imu is dressed in all black, and his devil fruit power turns him into a dark monster. While Joy Boy is a warrior of liberation who brings laughter and joy, and who promises to reveal the truth of the world and liberate everyone from oppression, Imu is the one who oppresses the world from the shadows, hides the truth in darkness, erases history, and uses fear and violence to force everyone to conform to his rule. In short, Imu is as close as it gets to the exact opposite of the warrior of liberation. Imu is the dark counterpart of Luffy, and his devil fruit is the Anti-Nika. If Luffy is a warrior of light and freedom, Imu is the embodiment of darkness and tyranny. If Luffy is the sun god, then Imu is the night devil. As I was working on this video, I saw a video by Arthur from the Library of Ohara, and in that video he raised some of the same points as I'm raising now, so I just wanted to shout him out real quick. I've said this before, but Arthur and Tekking are channels that you absolutely must subscribe to if you're a One Piece fan on YouTube. One thing that occurred to me, and that Arthur also mentioned, was the fact that if Imu's devil fruit is some sort of dark counterpart to Nika, then maybe this can give us some idea of what kind of powers Imu actually possesses. If Joy Boy, aka Nika, has the power to turn imagination into reality and essentially make dreams come true, then maybe Imu's Anti-Nika power is to bring the worst fears and nightmares of people into reality. Nika brings light and laughter, Imu brings darkness and silence. Nika brings joy and freedom, Imu brings terror and tyranny. Nika brings truth and justice, Imu brings censorship and control. Luffy is trying to become the Pirate King and achieve his dream, and Imu will try to stop him by becoming his worst nightmare. Just imagine the ability to bring into reality the most over-the-top cartoonish fears and nightmares and then use them against your opponent. Just imagine Luffy's power of imagination versus Imu's power of nightmares colliding in what looks like a chaotic Tom and Jerry episode on steroids. Sun versus darkness, God versus devil, truth versus lies, joy versus terror. And in fact, Imu's devil fruit could be Luffy's greatest weakness. If Imu's devil fruit has the ability to bring nightmares and fears into reality, and maybe create illusions that would exploit someone's greatest fears, then we all know what Imu is going to do to Luffy. Luffy's greatest vulnerability is that he cares deeply for his friends, and that he would do anything to protect them. He would take any risk and make any sacrifice in order to protect his nakama. So, if Imu can create illusions that make Luffy think that his friends are in life-threatening danger, or maybe even that his friends are already dead, this could lead Luffy to lose it, slip up, and play right into Imu's hands. I can definitely see something like this happening in the final battle between the Sun God and the Night Devil. Obviously, it's still hard to know what the true nature of Imu's devil power is, but this idea that Imu has the Anti-Nika fruit and that he is the Night Devil to Luffy's Sun God would make for an absolutely phenomenal final showdown. Maybe Imu's devil fruit really is a special mythical zone, just like Luffy's Nika fruit, but Imu's model is the opposite of a god. Imu's model is the Hito Hito no Mi model devil. The devil fruit. What do you guys think? What is Imu's true devil fruit power? And could he have the dark counterpart to Luffy's Nika fruit? The Anti-Nika devil fruit? What about the Gorosei? What do you think their devil fruit powers are, and how do they work? Will we ever see Sun God Luffy battle Night Devil Imu directly? Let me know down below. If you're looking for an epic One Piece video to watch next, check out our video ranking every Straw Hat member from weakest to strongest, link in the description and on screen. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more One Piece content in the future, leave a quick like right now. And if you're new to Anime Uproar, or maybe you watch my videos but you just haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications.